Have you ever felt that someone close to you is acting differently, quieter, more distant, but you don't know what to do? Have you ever tried to help, only to feel like your words had no effect or, worse, push them even further away? What many people don't realize is that supporting someone with depression can be a real challenge. Not because the person doesn't want help, but because, most of the time, they don't even know how to accept it. Depression is not a passing phase or something that can be solved with simple advice like, just think positive, or go out more. It is a serious condition that affects millions of people in silence, turning each day into an internal battle. And do you know what's even worse? Many times, those who are suffering are unable to ask for help. That's why learning to support someone without pressuring, judging, or invading their space is crucial. Small actions can save lives. But how can you help in the right way? How can you be present without seeming intrusive? How can you encourage someone to seek professional help without making them feel guilty or misunderstood? If these questions have ever crossed your mind, then this video is for you. Today, you'll learn the best strategies for offering support in a respectful and effective way. Stay with me until the end, because in addition to explaining the most common mistakes that can hinder this process, I'll show you a step-by-step guide to doing it right. And more, I want to hear about your experience. Have you ever been through something like this? How did you handle it? Leave a comment. Your story might help others who are going through the same thing right now. Before we talk about how to help someone with depression, it's essential to understand what being depressed really means. Many people still confuse depression with temporary sadness, believing that a little willpower is all it takes to overcome it. But the truth is, depression is a serious condition that affects brain function, emotions, and even physical health. Imagine carrying an invisible weight every single day. This weight doesn't just disappear with motivational words or lifestyle changes. Depression can cause extreme fatigue, difficulty concentrating, insomnia or excessive sleep, changes in appetite, and in severe cases, even suicidal thoughts. The impact is real, and it is not about being weak or lacking faith, as some still believe. And this is where many people make mistakes without realizing it. Phrases like, it's all in your head, or, there are people with much bigger problems, don't help. In fact, they make things worse. They invalidate the other person's pain and can make them feel even more isolated. That's why breaking the myths surrounding depression is so important. Let's go over some of the most common misconceptions. Depression is just deep sadness. Wrong. Sadness usually has a specific cause and fades over time. Depression, on the other hand, can appear without any apparent reason and last for months or even years. People with depression just need to snap out of it. If it were that simple, no one would suffer from this condition. Depression drains a person's energy, making even basic daily activities feel overwhelming. Medication is unnecessary, willpower is enough. In many cases, depression involves chemical imbalances in the brain that can only be treated with medical supervision and, if necessary, medication. The more we understand about depression, the more empathy we can develop. And that's the foundation of any effective support system. Now that we know what depression isn't, let's learn how to recognize the signs that someone close to you may be fighting this silent battle. Depression often doesn't show up in obvious ways. Not everyone who is struggling will say, I'm depressed, or display extreme behaviors. Quite the opposite, depression can be silent, which is why it's essential to recognize the warning signs. One of the first indications that something isn't right is a change in behavior. Someone who used to be talkative may start avoiding conversations and social interactions. A person who once loved going out may begin refusing invitations regularly. Even small daily habits can change, such as neglecting personal hygiene or losing interest in things that once brought them joy. In addition to these behavioral shifts, there are emotional and physical symptoms. The person may show constant sadness, a feeling of emptiness, irritability, or guilt without any apparent reason. Physically, depression can cause extreme fatigue, unexplained body aches, sleep disturbances, and changes in appetite. Some people may sleep too much, while others struggle with insomnia. Another alarming sign is social withdrawal. People with depression tend to avoid interactions, either due to a lack of energy or because they don't want to burden others with their problems. If someone close to you has suddenly become distant, is ignoring messages, or frequently canceling plans, it might be a red flag. But how can you differentiate between regular sadness and clinical depression? Sadness typically has a clear cause and gradually fades. Depression, however, can linger for weeks or months without an obvious reason. Additionally, sadness doesn't usually interfere with basic daily functioning, whereas depression can significantly impact work, studies, and relationships. If you've noticed these signs in someone close to you, it's important to act with sensitivity. A person struggling with depression doesn't always realize what's happening to them. That's why the first step to helping is recognizing and understanding the signs. In the next section, we'll talk about how to offer support in the right way, without invading their space or saying things that, even unintentionally, could make the situation worse. Knowing that someone close to us is going through a difficult time makes us want to help, but we don't always know how. And in the attempt to offer support, many people end up saying things that, without meaning to, can make the situation worse. That's why it's crucial to learn how to help without overstepping boundaries or making the person feel pressured. The first step is to practice active listening. This means being truly present, without interrupting, without judging, and without trying to fix the problem. Often, the person just needs to vent and feel that someone genuinely cares. Instead of looking for ready-made answers, simply listen and show empathy. Another crucial point is to avoid phrases that invalidate the person's feelings. Saying things like, "Try to think positive," "You have everything to be happy," or "It's just a phase," can make them feel even more misunderstood. Instead, try saying, "I'm here for you. You don't have to pretend you're okay around me. If you ever want to talk, I'm here." The most important thing is to show that you're available without forcing them to talk or act in a certain way. Asking, "Why are you like this?" can sound like a judgment. Often, the person themselves doesn't even know the answer. Instead, try something like, "Do you want to go for a walk? You don't have to talk if you don't feel like it, but I can just be with you." Small gestures of closeness make a big difference. It's also essential to respect their pace. Pressuring them to go out, get distracted, or snap out of it can cause even more distress. Recovering from depression doesn't happen overnight, and patience is key. Supporting someone with depression doesn't mean having all the answers, it means being a safe space for that person. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to encourage seeking professional help the right way, without being intrusive or making them feel forced into treatment. Encouraging professional help without being invasive. Listening and offering emotional support is fundamental, but in many cases, depression requires professional care. However, suggesting therapy or medical treatment can be a delicate issue, especially if the person doesn't recognize the severity of their condition or is resistant to seeking help. So, how can you encourage them to take this step without being intrusive? The first thing to understand is that the decision to seek professional help has to come from the person themselves. Trying to force them to see a doctor or psychologist can backfire, making them withdraw even more. Instead of imposing, the best approach is to ask open-ended questions and present therapy as an option rather than an obligation. For example, have you ever thought about talking to someone who could help? Maybe a therapist could give you some tools to cope with this. If you'd like, I can help you find one. The way you phrase the suggestion makes all the difference. Avoid saying things like, "You need help," or "This isn't normal, you should get treatment," as they may sound like judgments. Instead, reinforce that seeking professional support isn't a sign of weakness, it's an important step towards well-being. Additionally, many people with depression struggle to take initiative, whether due to lack of energy or fear of the unknown. You can offer support by helping them find a trusted professional or even accompanying them to their first appointment if they feel comfortable with it. A simple, "If you'd like, I can go with you," can ease initial resistance. It's also important to respect their timing. If they resist at first, don't push too hard, but keep showing support and reinforcing that help is available whenever they feel ready. Seeking treatment is an important step, but it's not something that happens overnight. And in the meantime, those providing support also need to take care of themselves. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to avoid emotional exhaustion while supporting someone with depression. Taking care of yourself while supporting someone with depression. Supporting someone with depression can be emotionally draining. The desire to help often leads people to give their all, but without realizing it, they end up overwhelmed. It's like trying to save someone who's drowning without a life vest. If you're not careful, you might get pulled under too. That's why taking care of yourself while offering support is essential. The first step is understanding that you can't carry this responsibility alone. No matter how much you care about the person, you are not their therapist, nor do you have the power to heal them. Your role is to offer support, not to fix the problem. Recognizing this prevents unnecessary emotional strain. Another important point is setting healthy boundaries. Some people, in an effort to help, end up neglecting their own needs. If you notice that their suffering is affecting your mental health, it's time to seek balance. Allow yourself to take breaks, unwind, and even step back temporarily if needed. It's also helpful to rely on your own support network. If you feel overwhelmed, talk to friends, family, or even a professional. Sometimes, sharing your concerns can relieve emotional tension. Seeking therapy for yourself isn't selfish, on the contrary, it strengthens your ability to keep helping. Moreover, it's crucial to recognize signs of burnout. If you start feeling constant irritability, deep sadness, or a sense of helplessness while trying to help, it may be a sign that you need to take a step back and prioritize your own emotional health. Supporting someone with depression is a process that requires patience and resilience. And for that support to be sustainable, taking care of your own well-being is fundamental. In the next chapter, we'll discuss the most common mistakes people make when trying to help someone with depression, and how to avoid them so that your support is truly effective. Even with the best intentions, many people make mistakes when trying to help someone with depression. Certain phrases, actions, or even the way you approach the person can make things worse and push them further away. That's why understanding what not to do is just as important as knowing how to offer the right kind of support. One of the most common mistakes is minimizing the person's pain. Phrases like, "This is nothing, everyone has problems," or, "You just need to be strong," might sound encouraging, but in reality, they invalidate the other person's feelings. Depression is not a choice, nor is it a lack of effort, it's a serious condition that needs to be treated with care. Another frequent mistake is trying to force change. Many people believe that encouraging someone to go out, get distracted, or cheer up will help. However, if the person isn't ready for that, this kind of insistence can feel overwhelming. The most effective approach is to respect their pace and offer support without pressure. Additionally, some people, without realizing it, adopt a tone of judgment or impatience. Comments like, "Have you tried meditating?" or, "If you really wanted to get better, you'd do something about it," can make the person feel misunderstood. Depression already carries a heavy burden of guilt and self-criticism, and these remarks only reinforce that feeling. A particularly harmful mistake is assuming the role of a therapist. Supporting someone doesn't mean having all the answers or solving their problems. Your role is to be there for them, but their treatment should be handled by a professional. Trying to take on this responsibility can strain your relationship with them and take a toll on your own emotional well-being. Finally, one of the biggest misconceptions is thinking that words alone are enough. True support comes from consistent actions, even when the person doesn't show immediate gratitude or improvement. Small gestures, like simply being available, can make all the difference. Now that we know what to avoid, let's move on to the most important part, a practical step-by-step guide on how to provide the best possible support to someone struggling with depression. A practical guide to supporting someone with depression. Now that we understand what not to do, it's time to learn how to take the right approach. Offering support to someone with depression can seem challenging, but there are practical steps that can make this journey lighter and more effective. Here's a simple guide to helping in the best way possible. Recognize the signs. Before anything else, pay attention to changes in behavior. If someone close to you starts withdrawing, loses interest in things they once enjoyed, or seems constantly exhausted, it may be a sign of depression. Noticing this is the first step to offering help. Show support without pressure. Sometimes, just knowing that someone cares makes a difference. Instead of forcing conversations or distractions, try saying, "If you ever need someone, I'm here for you." The simple act of being present is already a huge source of support. Choose your words carefully, avoid phrases that invalidate their feelings, such as, "It's just a phase," or, "Others have it worse." Instead, opt for words that offer comfort, like, "You don't have to go through this alone." Encourage seeking professional help. If the person is open to it, gently suggest therapy. You might say, "Have you thought about talking to a professional?" It could be a helpful option for you. If they resist, don't push, but keep the conversation open. Respect their timing and boundaries. Recovery doesn't happen overnight. Avoid setting expectations that they'll get better quickly or that they just need to try harder. Be patient and understanding. Take care of yourself too. Supporting someone with depression can be emotionally draining. Respect your own limits, seek support for yourself, and, if necessary, talk to a professional about your own struggles. By following these steps, your support can make a huge difference in the life of someone struggling with depression. And now, to wrap things up, let's leave an encouraging message and extend an invitation for you to engage and help even more people. A final message of encouragement. If you've made it this far, it already shows how much you care. The simple act of trying to understand how to support someone with depression makes a huge difference. We won't always have the right words, and we won't always know exactly what to do, but just being present is already a big step. Remember, you don't need to have all the answers. Support isn't just about words, it's in small gestures, patience, and respecting the other person's timing. Even when it feels like your help isn't making a difference, know that your presence does matter. Many people struggling with depression feel invisible, and by simply showing that you care, you are already offering immense support. But don't forget to take care of yourself too. Supporting someone doesn't mean carrying all the weight alone. If you ever feel emotionally exhausted, reach out to your own support network. After all, you can only truly help when you are well yourself. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation like this? Do you know someone who needs this kind of support? Share your experience in the comments. Your story could inspire and help others who are going through the same thing. And if this video helped you, share it with friends and family. The more people have access to this information, the more real support can be given to those who need it most. Depression is a silent battle, but no one has to face it alone. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.